Madam, Dr. Vidisha Ghosdastidar, our IQAC coordinator, Professor Moha Basu, and our respected speaker, Dr. Indranil Bhattacharjee, senior data scientist at Rabobank, Netherlands, and all of our respected colleagues and dear students. I am Shomita Ghosh, faculty of Zoology Department, Banipur Mahila Mahavidyalaya. Today, 28th February, is celebrated as National Science Day to honor the discovery of Raman effects by Sir C.V. Raman in 1928. This year, the theme of Science Day is empowering Indian youth for global leadership in science and innovation for Vikshit Bharat. And this theme aims to highlight the role of young Indian minds and shaping the future of science and innovation for nation's development. And we have all gathered here for an international seminar organized by the Science Department in association with IQAC. The topic of the seminar is application of artificial intelligence, and we will be hearing about it in detail from the resource person later on. At present, I would request our Madam Principal to give the welcome address. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Shomita. Very good afternoon. Uh, as you have already heard, that National Science Day is observed every year on 28th of February to commemorate the discovery of Raman effect by C.V. Raman. Banipur Mahila Mahavidyalaya celebrates National Science Day every year by organizing seminars, lectures, poster presentations, quiz contests, etc. in our college campus, and also we observe some online programs. This year, we are observing National Science Day with 2 days state level and international seminar and with publication of magazines. This is the second day of our program. I, on behalf of the teachers, students, and non-teaching staff of Banipur Mahila Mahavidyalaya, welcome Dr. Indranil Bhattacharjee, who will, he is our esteemed speaker, and he will deliver his lecture on application of artificial intelligence. I welcome Dr. Bhattacharjee to deliver his lecture. Now, over to the anchor. Thank you.
Thank you so much, madam. Before we go to the technical session, I would like to request Ms. Joita Singh, Faculty of Anthropology, to please introduce our resource person. Over to you, Joita Di.
Thank you, Shomita. I am Joita Sinha, Faculty, Department of Anthropology. We feel immensely proud and honored to have a promising scientist with us today, our resource person, Dr. Indranil Bhattacharjee. Dr. Bhattacharjee is a senior data scientist at Rabobank, Netherlands, where he develops machine for learning and AI algorithms to detect financial crimes. He holds a PhD in applied machine. He studied at the University of Amsterdam and he holds a degree in statistics from the Indian Statistical Institute, Kolkata. Today, he is going to talk about artificial intelligence and its application, exploring its present and future impact. Now, I am requesting Dr. Bhattacharjee to begin his presentation. Sir, the floor is yours. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. My first question is, am I audible properly? Thank you. Perfect. So thank you very much, Joita, for introducing myself. I think I was actually preparing my introduction on my own, but maybe that is not necessary, I think, at this point of time. So I can skip that part. Yeah, so today we are going to talk about this application of artificial intelligence and its effect and how we can perceive the future with respect to using artificial intelligence in our lives. So that would be the focus of our talk today. So yeah, so basically I was thinking before this seminar is that how should I kind of structure my half an hour? How should I do that? And then first I thought that maybe I'll start with the history of AI, like why it kind of became important that AI is something that people should think about. So what was the motivation behind the fact that we should talk about or think about AI? So it was mostly to understand that when humans do a job, then there is a chance of certain kind of errors, right? That we see. For example, when humans do calculations in mathematics, or when they're solving or trying to solve a mathematics, when they're writing, uh, let's say, a letter or something, a news article, then there is a chance of grammatical mistakes or something that might happen. And and then we were thinking, like, is there a way to kind of automate these kind of tasks which some machine can do, and it would be more trustworthy in the sense that we don't have to again create a validation loop to check whether there is some sort of error that we are doing in those tasks or not. For example, it can be some basic calculations, or it can be something like um, uh, counting the amount of money that I'm handing you into. So these kind of tasks, right? So that was the primary motivation in terms of developing artificial intelligence or machines that can come up with come up with solutions that would be kind of automating the things that humans would do. So that was basically the purpose of artificial intelligence in that sense. And it kind of started, I think, during post Second World War, when people started a lot of these calculations based machines. Then IBM also came up with their huge supercomputers, which can come up with a lot of things. And now think about, like, when we are standing in 2025, when the things that we have automated are like immense. Like, now we can like, if I give you a piece of text in German, I think you would immediately understand with using AI, like, what exactly I'm saying. So that's where you are standing right now, right? So like, if I tell you to give me I don't know, maybe everyone can write me a poem in Spanish, even if you are not familiar with that language. But every one of you can, if I give you 5 minutes, and definitely all of you can come up with a poem in Spanish. So that's where you're standing right now. So imagine I'm just showcasing this particular future, and now again, if I move you back in 1940s or 1950s, just the Second World War ended. Now we are kind of discussing how to reindustrialize ourselves, etc. And then if I tell those persons, like, okay, can you imagine, like, 80 years from now, this is where you would be standing? And I think all of them would laugh at me. All of them would say that, okay, I'm just joking, and this is unbelievable. Not only unbelievable, this is like abnormal, and I think everyone would call me lunatic or something. And that's how I mean, and I'm not joking. In fact, if you get to see or read the scientific fictions or sci-fi books from 1940s or 50s, these are the things that you would get to learn or get to read, and you'll see that, okay, these are quite normal. Then why they were even thinking about this? So that's the space or the speed by which we have kind of grown artificial intelligence. uh, so if we have to define, like, as of now, how much intelligent our machines, or how much intelligent uh, our systems are becoming, like, and now people let's talk about how they're developing it, right? So because every time we get to see that this chat gpt or google maps, or anything that you get to see that is based on artificial intelligence, it can also be like weather forecasting or anything else. So how people are developing it, so that's one of the primary things that probably we should try to answer, or we should be, or keep ourselves really curious about, is that how people are developing these kind of smart intelligent systems, right? So generally the idea should be as follows, is that now we are trying to kind of mimicking the human brains. So basically, the way our human brains can look at, or let's say, figure out things, an artificial intelligent system should also be able to kind of mimic that thought process to kind of come up or obtain the same kind of solution. So what is it? I can give you some examples. For example, when a child is being born, then the mother or the father actually show the child that, okay, see, these are the species that you can say that they're dogs, and these are the species that they're cats, right? So eventually, after seeing, I don't know, maybe 10 or 20 dogs or different types of dogs, and eventually after seeing 10 or 20 different types of cats, now the child is actually uh, that child has that capability inside his or her brain to kind of distinguish between which one should be identified as a dog and which animal should be identified as a cat, right? And of course, I'm just giving an example with dog and cats, and of course, this can be generalized to anything. But imagine the brilliant mind that everyone, or as at least all of us as a human being, or most of us do have, is that after identifying 10 or 20 dogs or cats, after learning about them, we do not actually doubt whether a given animal, whether it's a dog or cat. We immediately know that. So the thing is, like, can we create a system where actually, given a picture, it can also tell you whether it's a dog or cat? So it's not a human being who would be taking that decision, rather, let's say, a particular computer algorithm. So given a picture as an input, it can tell you whether it's a dog or cat. So these were the initial motivations in terms of kind of image identification or things like that. And people are there, people are actually getting there, or not only getting there, people have actually surpassed that pass that those road blockers, that now the image identification is nothing. For example, I think all of you are familiar with Facebook, and in Facebook, whenever you post a particular photo, then Facebook immediately understands that maybe you are standing with your friend X, and then Facebook immediately suggests you, like, do you want to tag X? The reason being that the Facebook already identifies that person as an X, and because the system knows how X looks like, and then definitely from its algorithm, it can kind of come up with those suggestions. So this is already intelligent, and this is already something that you could do, and now those capabilities are kind of mimicked into a system where the system can also take those decisions. So that's very interesting. And then if you think about it, like, when I started this lecture, I talked about, like, error, right? Because we started with this, that okay, uh, we were saying that okay, if we are kind of doing the same thing with a particular intelligent system, that what a particular human was doing, it should be errorless or error free. But when the machine is saying that, do you want to tag X, or I'm identifying that person as an X, is it really error free? Or is it really that much error free that we can trust an intelligent system instead of a person, right? So those are the questions that are still there, and people are talking about those questions. And if I ask you to answer, like, what can actually help you to reduce those errors, that is nothing but basically the huge amount of data. So basically, any artificial intelligence or any machine learning or any kind of these intelligent systems, they would not work, or they are kind of quite impossible to develop or impossible to come up with if you do not have a huge amount of data. Imagine when you are actually checking whether it's going to rain tomorrow or not, then it actually needs a huge amount of historical data to understand when it actually rains and how the previous day looks like, so that on the next day it might rain, right? So basically, you need to have that understanding. You need to come up with all those historical data so that the pattern recognition can become a little bit easier. And that was very similar to how that particular child was trying to understand, okay, from those 10, 15 initial identification by her or his parents, that okay, see, this is a dog, this is also another dog, this is also another dog. Those are basically the data, and using those data, your brain is kind of trying to understand how a dog uh, would be looking like versus how a cat would be looking like. And now immediately after that stage, there is no indistinguishable situations, right? So the data is important. And of course, it might happen that for that child, maybe you needed only 30 or 40 observational data points, but maybe for the intelligent system, you might need 2000 dogs and 2000 cats, and then it probably start understanding which one further can be identified as a dog and which one further can be identified as a cat. So that's basically, I'm just trying to kind of trying to uh, gap the bridge between where we stand, how we are developing these AI or artificial intelligence systems. So basically, we need data, and also we need to understand how human brain works, and probably using that we can come up with some sort of solution that would be able to mimic how human brain works. So when it comes to the present state of artificial intelligence, I think there are two or three types of artificial intelligence that we can divide our systems with, or intelligent systems with. So one is particularly task specific AI, right? So task specific AI means that, let's say, Google Translator, it has a particular task. So basically in Google Translator, the application itself is expecting that you would say something in language A, and it is required to translate that into language B. But the language translation, that task is a specific task, and that particular system is intelligent about that particular task itself. So these are basically kind of task specific AIs. For example, all the applications that you have, generally 99% of the applications in your phone or in your laptop, they are task specific AIs. For example, the I don't know, the Facebook app actually knows what are the things that it should kind of maintain, or let's say weather forecasting apps. So those are basically quite task specific AI apps. And then another non-task specific AI apps are basically the reinforcement kind of AIs. So this is also very interesting, and I think this is the future of AI, and I will bridge that gap with reinforcement AI. Is that what is basically reinforcement AI? Reinforcement AI is not task specific. Rather, what it would do uh, is that imagine you have an application that kind of reinforces the future applications. That's basically the reinforcement AI. What it means is that, I can give you an example, is that um, imagine that I have a system, and what that system does is that, given a picture, it can tell you the future perspective out of that picture. So one example is that, so now people are experimenting with this, like some of our friends also in the universities, they're doing this, is that imagine I give you a picture of my fridge. So I open my fridge, I take a picture of the fridge, and then using that picture, I tell my AI this particular question, that can you tell me what can I prepare for my dinner? So now the AI, what it does is that it kind of identifies, okay, what do you have in your fridge? I see a chicken, I see this, I see that, I see broccoli or whatever. And then it kind of says that, okay, what you can do based on what you have in your fridge, you can prepare this particular dish. And then the system actually gives the recipe of that particular dish that you like. And imagine how much intelligent I can make this system. So I can probably the system already knows that I am expecting some guests. Then it would say that, okay, given that you are expecting 2, 3 guests, maybe the amount of chicken that you have would not be sufficient. Rather, what you can do, you can prepare this other thing, which you have in your stock as a sufficient amount. Imagine you are making system that intelligent that it knows that who are basically these guests are, and it knows that, okay, this particular guest is probably a little bit allergic to a particular dish, then we are not going to prepare that. So imagine all those intelligent thoughts are already embedded into a system. So those are basically not task specific AIs. Rather, basically, they are kind of reinforcement learning kind of AIs, that the intelligent systems, with respect to different components, they are kind of reinforcing the entire system into taking a decision. It might happen that the intelligent system already knows that maybe day after tomorrow I have a very important meeting to attend, and based on my picture from my wardrobe, it can tell you like, okay, just maybe use this particular dress so that you look great, something like that. And actually, the history of reinforcement AI is also very interesting. That I don't know if you are familiar with this Alpha Zero. So basically, Alpha Zero is an application that came up to play an intelligent chess bot. So it also plays chess, so supercomputer chess. And initially, when people were developing these chess bots, what they were doing is that it was trying to see how many moves it can see far ahead. So basically, if I'm playing a move, then the computer chess bot would try to understand, okay, 10-20 moves ahead, what are the different paths, and then based on that, the best one it will play back. But now what the reinforcement AIs are doing is that you don't have to show them all those paths. Basically, what they're doing is that you create two as if computer agents, let's say agent A and agent B, or player A and player B, let's say, and you just tell them that, see, these are the rules of chess. So player A knows the rules of the chess, player B also knows the rules of the chess, and all of them are actually computer players, and then they just play amongst each other for let's say 1 hour or 2 hours. And imagine with current supercomputers how many games they can play within 1 or 2 hours. It's a lot, right? And by that time, after the end of 2 hours, each of those player A and player B would become a very, very proficient in chess. It's like unbelievable. So it's like they are actually figuring out which one is a good move and which one is a bad move after playing, let's say, millions of games. So that's how the reinforcement learning works. Generally, you are kind of creating some agents or some small components which would interact with each other to come up with a more intelligent and smart solution. So that's the idea. I think there are only few minutes left. So basically, instead of talking about types of AI, I know that I mentioned there are three types of AI right now. So one is a little bit of futuristic AI. So we talked about task specific, we talked about this reinforcement. The futuristic AI is basically kind of combining this task specific and reinforcement. And basically that's where we are heading towards. Imagine in healthcare, like this could be quite important or quite helpful. So when you go to a doctor, a general physician generally asks you, or you generally tell them that, okay, I have this symptom A, symptom B, and symptom C. So what do you think? And then doctor kind of connects those dots, like, okay, you have symptom A, you have symptom B, this is a winter season, and then probably you went to some um, festival or something. So then they are connecting those dots. Imagine all those dots can be connected with these small components, and they would interact with each other and come up with an intelligent solution, right? So those things, we are not far away from those things. In fact, we don't have to wait 80 years. Maybe in 5-6 years we'll be able to see those intelligent solutions, given how much how fast we are actually moving towards those kind of things. uh, so basically, one thing that I should mention before finishing my talk is that we also have this. We need to, the more we become dependent on AI, the more we need to be a little bit more careful or cautious as well. We also need to talk about this artificial intelligence ethics or AI ethics. So, what is AI ethics? Is that imagine we are all aware that we do have some sort of gender bias in some sort of scenarios, right? So even if you pick one particular literature out of Indian literature, I'm quite sure the protagonist would be 90% of the times it would be a male protagonist, right? So you would get to see gender bias in literature. You would get to see gender bias in a lot of things. And since the artificial intelligence is based on data, the data actually received all those information from the historical data, which had all those gender biases, right? So what would happen is that now, if you go to ChatGPT and if you tell that ChatGPT to, can you give me a thriller story or can you give me a detective story? Since the intelligent system is trained out of all those historical data where you have the gender bias, I'm quite sure initially the training sample or the output that you will get from that ChatGPT or any artificial intelligence system, although you'll get probably a very good detective story, a novel one probably, you will see that the protagonist is a male probably. And if you keep generating 100 times with by the law of large number, you will see that only once or twice you will see a female protagonist, right, or female detective maybe. So these are the AI ethics that we really need to be careful about, because since AI is kind of dependent on historical data, so and the history is not always quite clean. There were some certain bias, there were some certain corrections that were required. So the artificial intelligence systems that we are developing, they do have those issues or bias because the biases were also there in the historical data, right? So basically we need to be careful about those AI ethics or the bias that we already have while coming up with AI generated decisions, right? So I think this is also one of the important aspects that we need to be really careful, need to be really thoughtful and careful about, that we should not always only use AI, but also be a little bit careful whether we still have some bias or not, whether the decisions that we are taking based on AI, whether they are making sense or not. And I always mention that we of course need to kind of evolve ourselves or explore AI so much so that we can kind of keep ourselves updated, but also we should not lose the touch of human. So basically every intelligent solution should be combined or ensembled with the human solution to come up with a more rational solution. So with this, probably I'll finish my talk, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir, for your wonderful and insightful lecture, and you cleared the concept so beautifully. So I will be moving to our next session, the interactive session, and it will be conducted by Mr. Durjoy Pramani, Faculty of Geography. Durjoy, over to you.
Thank you. Good afternoon to all. I am Durjoy Pramani from BANIPUR MAHILA MAHAVIDYALAYA, Department of Geography. We are enlightened by the speaker's speech. Thank you, sir. Is there any question from participants?
Actually, I have a question.
Sure.
Sir, you told about the Facebook and being published all the things when we are thinking about something. So is there any way to not being published this thing? Actually, it's when we are thinking of anything and instantly it's showing about the result. We are thinking of any shopping material, any travel destination, anything. So if we don't want to being published it, so what should I do?
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting question, because I mean, imagine when it comes from the idea of advertisement, right? So basically, when we see the advertisement in, let's say, television, let's say you are showing the advertisement of one particular toothpaste or something, right? And probably it's not catering to the entire audience. It's probably catering to the 10 or 20% of the audience who are actually relevant, right? Because maybe it's about some, I don't know, drinks, and maybe 80% of the people are actually finding it relevant and the rest 20% are not. So basically, when we used to see the advertisements in the televisions, they were not, it was generic, right? It was not targeted. But now when you get to see advertisements or posts or recommendations rather from this Facebook or some other apps, they are using all this data to kind of make those advertisements relevant particularly to you. So specifically, what you are seeing as advertisements are actually required or how do you say, like relevant for you, but maybe the other person next to you is seeing something completely else, and actually that is relevant for them, right? So now the question is, is it like our privacy is being breached, and basically we are kind of, what we are seeing or what we are saying or what we are listening, all of them are kind of coupled into these recommendations, right? So the thing is, there are two ways to address this. Like, one is like, okay, I'm okay with this, and probably because the recommendations are so helpful that actually it is something that I didn't think of, and now that I see that okay, this is something that I should use or something, and so I find it helpful. But on the next time I was like, okay, is it not like a privacy breach, right? So basically, I think one of the important aspects, and that couples with the last point that I had mentioned, is that AI ethics or AI regulations, like to how strongly we should regulate these applications of AI. And I think actually this is also coming up, like how basically the audit systems do work. Like they generally check like how financially uh, as a company you are doing good or bad. So basically AI audit is also coming up, where they are checking the way you are using or applying your AI. That should be audited. Are you using some sort of privacy breach, or are you using some sort of privacy data to kind of come up with those intelligent solutions? So basically those things are coming up, and I think long story short, the idea is to come up with AI regulations, and basically this would also cater to those kind of questions, like am my privacy is being kind of compromised, so what can you do? Because then you have to go back to history and remove the data that I want or that I do not want to share, right? So those kind of things would come up eventually, would become much more stronger. And as of now, I think as a user you should also be quite specific in terms of checking what are the user data that you are actually sharing with Facebook or some other apps, and be careful about like where you are putting ticks and where you are not. Yeah, I think that would be it.
Yes. Thank you so much, sir.
No
Thank you,
problem.
sir.
Yeah.
Someone has raised his or her
Uh,
hand.
yes, madam. Good afternoon, sir. We are enlightened with your valuable speech, sir. Thank you so much. But, sir, I have a question. Sir, do you think that in future, this artificial intelligence can take over our own intelligence, like human intelligence?
That's a very interesting question. And actually, the thing is like now I mean, with
Because, sir,
time,
today we are
basically.
very dependent on artificial intelligence or apps, like just you have said or mentioned some apps. So, can you just say something on this?
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting question, because even if you check the history of literature, like now the way we are, so if you check like recent sci-fi movies or sci-fi literature, you will get to see that basically they are talking about creating these robots or things like that, where it's completely or identical to you or yourself as a human being. It has those capacities or those reinforcement kind of things where it can come up with intelligent solutions, and of course with less errors, right? So the question is whether in the near future, probably not near future, but in 50, 60 years, is that a possibility or not? So I think uh, I mean, it's again my personal opinion, and of course like something that I cannot guarantee or put on. So the thing is, I feel like with uh, as a society, I think we are moving to these intelligent systems. We are taking decisions based on these intelligent systems, but we also have to hold ourselves a little bit back. And that's where basically these AI ethics or AI regulations should come into picture. And then once they become strong, basically you also regulate to what extent you are taking decisions, right? To what, because I mean, imagine I think maybe if you watch cricket, you will get to see that when you are at the 20th over, there is one small application which is just saying in the bottom, like, okay, I think the projected score is 280. So that's also an artificial intelligence. That's also something that there are like, I don't know, maybe one company who is predicting that, right? So that's an intelligent system, and based on that, basically a lot of people are putting a lot of money to see like, okay, if this is the case, then probably this team would win, and let's bet our money on that. So probably there are some sort of regulatory checks that are required, so that you need to understand like to what extent I should take my decisions based on something and what extent I should not. So I believe that while theoretically what you are saying is possible, as a society we should make AI ethics or regulations or unbiasing ourselves so strong that eventually we don't have to kind of be pragmatic about these kind of situations. Yeah. I don't know if that answers your questions, maybe, but
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
okay, no problem.
Hello, sir. I have another question.
Yeah,
A very good
sure.
afternoon to you.
Yeah.
Sir, I want to know the role of AI in disease diagnosis or treatment planning. As we know that nowadays AI is being used in cancer treatment or cancer diagnosis or the drug development treatment planning. How AI is used in such circumstances where a patient is going through a lot of uh, disease or through a lot of care, intense care, how AI is used there. I just want to know about it.
Yeah, that's a very good question, Vikram. Basically, I think AI in healthcare is one of the most hottest topic right now because I think the way you can use AI to help humanities, and if you kind of rank all those prospects, I think of course healthcare AI would be one of the top three or four, maybe one of the top most ones actually, and not the recommendations that you are getting in the app, of course. So basically what would happen is that I think so far we have already kind of going through that directions where AI is kind of being deployed quite solidly. I'll tell you how. For example, when a pathologist do take the reports and kind of take 5-6 hours to understand whether the report is kind of like which stage of cancer, let's say, the particular report says. Imagine uh, there is an intelligent system that can mimic what the pathologists were thinking, and imagine it can take that decision within 1 or 2 minutes, right? So in that way, basically, you can kind of do a lot of things quite effectively, quite efficiently. Imagine you were initially taking 5-6 hours, now it would take like 1 or 2 minutes maybe. And of course you have to couple it with a human sort of judgment as well, because healthcare is one of the very sensitive sectors as well, because at the end of the day it's talking about your health, it's talking about taking very I don't know, very risky decisions, right? So basically that's also one of the fields where we need to couple intelligent decisions along with human decisions or human expertise, let's say. So basically in healthcare this is also something that is happening. Also, for example, imagine when a doctor, the example that I mentioned, like when a doctor actually gives you uh, uh, a particular prescription or particular medicine based on the symptoms that you had mentioned or the questions that he asked and you answered. So those things can be automated to some extent, but again you need that human touch, of course, because that's the human expertise. So but those things, imagine now even you can google your symptoms and get to see what are the immediate things that you can do to get rid of your discomfortness, let's say. So those things are now quite like just one click away from your phone, right? So those things are actually definitely helping you. But going forward, I think people would be able to use AI in terms of early cancer detection, in terms of effectively and efficiently bringing in things. So that's good. Um, but another point that I must mention is that healthcare is also quite sensitive, because let's say whenever you come up with a trial and come up and prescribe a particular drug or a medicine, you need a 10 years or 15 years of trials to understand whether that particular drug should be productionalized or not. So that's also quite critical. Like even though you can make it quite fast, detection can become fast, but when it comes to the prevention, I don't see yet how fast things can go, because for trials you need to be or follow the same sort of regulatory process that you would be doing, I think, 50 years ago from now as well. So yeah, but overall I
Yes.
think it's very helpful and healthy practice.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, no problem.
So there is another question:
Sure.
use and limitation of AI.
Yeah, I think so. First of all, I think the use of AI is something that we are already doing. I mean, knowingly or unknowingly at every step probably we are using AI. So I think
Sir, sorry to interrupt you, sir. Sir, but the question is AI in research sector, its uses and its limitations, sir.
yeah, I think that's also quite broad. But in research, I think AI has kind of significantly fueled how we should do research, or to what extent or to how fast we can do research, etc. I mean, I can give you one anecdote, and that probably give you one idea. Is that uh, before ChatGPT and after ChatGPT, you get to see the revisions of papers or research papers that has improved significantly. So earlier, when you were checking a particular research paper, you probably were taking, I don't know, maybe a week or something. But now, to understand like what this paper says, you can just upload it to an intelligent system and tell that system to give you a summary, and you will get that summary, and then you can take some decisions. So imagine how fast you can take those decisions. Earlier, in, I don't know, even 10 years ago, if I have to write a paper, I have to go through this journal, that journal to understand, find, uh, actually go through the entire paper, understand the summary of the entire thing, and probably maybe there is only one paragraph that was relevant for me, something like that. But now I can just upload it somewhere and tell that system, can you tell me what is relevant for me and what is not, or at least summarize this paper. So these things have significantly changed, and that's why in research, I think the pace has improved significantly, and I think it is going to stay there. And also, to stay relevant in research, you also have to start using these applications. Otherwise, probably you will be lacking out of resources. So I think in that way, even within research, the use is quite. I think it would become, I mean, as normal as using Google Scholar. So yeah, I think if that helps.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
No.
Thank you, sir. We are moving to the next session. Now I am requesting Professor Ponnishika De to take over for the valedictory session. Over to you, Ponnishika.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I will now take some time to offer my heartfelt gratitude to our respected resource person, Dr. Indranil Bhattacharjee, Senior Data Scientist, Rabobank, Netherlands, who has enlightened us today through his lecture on application of artificial intelligence. I extend my heartfelt gratitude to our respected Principal Madam, Dr. Vidisha Ghosh Dostidar, for her help and guidance. I wish to thank our IQAC coordinator, Professor Mohabasu Madam, for helping and guiding us through this international seminar organized by science departments, Anthropology, Botany, Geography, and Zoology. I wish to extend my gratitude to the technical experts of our college who helped us to successfully organize this seminar. I thank the participants for their cooperation and patience. Finally, I would like to thank the teaching and non-teaching staff of our college for their support and contribution towards organizing this international seminar. We hope to organize many more of them in the coming days. Congratulations and thank you all very much.
Thank you. Thank you. You may leave now. Thank you all.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you,
Thank you,
ma'am.
ma'am.